Can we get you to sign it? Yeah, well, that's why.
Can be more polite by not letting the door fall into people's face. That would be helpful.
It wasn't me. They opened the door.
You opened the door.
Yes, they opened the door for me. They opened the door for me.
And you let it fall right shut. And I
They were
was
the one
right
who was
behind
opening the
her.
door. I wasn't opening the door. Wow.
After the fact, I guess one is supposed to sign in, but
Thank you.
did I give you my phone number?
Is you with the campaign or not? I am a candidate. Oh. That's my favorite buddy.
How you feel?
Thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah. We should have children. That's all. Thank you. I'm not sure where.
Thank you.
Oh, thanks, sorry. Good, yeah.
And Amy, thank you. Said she was on board. Or she would.
Well, not yet. I will.
Okay. Come on in. Sign in over here.
I don't live here, so I couldn't.
That's how I feel.
Hello. Hi neighbors, welcome. It is 6:30 and we are ready to get started. Ooh, quieted down really well. Thank you. My name is Chelsea DeArmond, and I'm the founder of St. Paul 350. You should be cheering for everybody in the orange shirts around here and people who aren't wearing orange shirts who have been doing amazing work in our community. I'll tell you a little bit about what we're doing. We're a group of volunteers that's committed to ending the pollution that's damaging our communities and our climate. We want to speed the transition to clean energy, and we are creating a just and healthy future for all of us. As more of our neighbors seek ways to respond to the climate crisis, St. Paul 350 is organizing meaningful actions for us to take together. So thank you very much for being here today. Just some quick housekeeping. We do have some handouts that we're going to be referring to. So if you didn't get a chance to pick them up on your way in, there's a table back there and they can help you get set up. So our St. Paul 350 team is focused on what climate justice looks like right here in our communities. Because we're focused on this place, we start our meetings by acknowledging that this is the homeland of Dakota people. Before St. Paul was St. Paul, before it was even Pig's-Eye, Dakota people lived here together for thousands of years. And the Dakota are still here doing amazing work in St. Paul. Recognizing that the stolen land and stolen labor recognizing that stolen land and stolen labor are at the root of the environmental and economic crises we now face grounds us as we seek solutions together. That's why St. Paul 350 is focusing on energy democracy. Transitioning to clean, renewable energy can end the harmful pollution caused by burning fossil fuels. And this transition also has implications for jobs, housing, transportation, and health. It is an opportunity to end the historic inequities that put Ward 6 communities at greater risk in the first place. This spring and summer, our team was very involved in the City of St. Paul's Climate Action and Resilience Plan. We learned that even though people on the east side create less carbon emissions than other parts of the city, we are more likely to suffer from the pollution caused by these emissions, such as poor air quality, flooding, extreme heat, and loss of tree cover. Ward 6 communities have the biggest need for clean, affordable energy, but the kinds of solutions that are currently available leave many of us behind. I don't want to steal the candidate thunder, so here's just one example.
There we go.
The
Thank
federal,
you.
The federal tax credit for solar panels only applies to homeowners. That excludes 70% of people in Ward 6. We need energy solutions that are accessible and affordable for everybody. Another thing we learned from working on the Climate Action and Resilience Plan with the city is how much our city depends on our investor-owned utility, Xcel Energy. Our Climate Action Plan focuses on reducing emissions from transportation and building use. Those are important things. But another enormous source of emissions is energy production. And when it comes to reducing those emissions, we're forced to simply trust Xcel Energy. That means that during this time of climate crisis, we are relying on the same corporate model that got us into this mess to get us back out. We have been so dependent on corporations for so long that we can't imagine life without them. That's another important reason we ground ourselves in remembering that this is Dakota homeland. People lived in this land for thousands of years without destroying it. It can be that way again. Imagine if the money earned by Xcel shareholders circulated in our communities instead. Imagine if we had local green jobs that earned living wages for our families. Imagine if we could be participants, decision makers, and owners in our energy future. It's time to take back our power. So what can we do about this? Here's what St. Paul 350 has been working on, and we would love for you to join us. We've been meeting with the mayor's staff and city council members to find out how the city can be more involved in making decisions about our own energy future. We are working on getting a city council resolution passed that will get the city involved in the Public Utility Commission's decision about Xcel Energy's plan to build a new fracked gas power plant. There's information on our handout that explains how you can submit your own information, how you can submit your own public comment and participate in the public hearing coming up on October 28th at Dayton's Bluff Rec Center. There's more information about this in your handouts. So another thing we've been doing is talking to city council members about Xcel's franchise agreement with our city. We've been hearing a lot lately about how contracts can make a big difference in our bills and our quality of life. The St. Paul City Council will have an opportunity to renegotiate our contract with Xcel in 2021. We're looking into ways this contract could be more equitable for Ward 6 communities. Learning about energy production is another thing we can do. We'll be hosting an energy democracy series at the Eastside Freedom Library later this fall to dive deeper into how utilities work and how this could be different. We'll explore new models like cooperatively owned community solar gardens and inclusive financing that make renewable energy and energy efficiency affordable and accessible for everybody, whether you are a renter or homeowner, and regardless of credit score. And finally, another really important thing you can do to make a difference is talk about power with your neighbors. If the concept of energy democracy is new to you, you're not alone. There's a reason I didn't open with the definition. Energy democracy is shaped by the people and the place. Maybe some of you are here tonight because we knocked on your door or called you. We need you to be a part of the process, part of what we're building together. There's a lot of forces dividing us right now. So now more than ever, we need to come together and find solutions. So before we hear from our city council candidates, which I'm really excited about, I want to say one more word about this place, specifically the building we're meeting in right now. Arlington Hills Community Center is part of former Ward 6 council member Dan Bostrom's legacy. I remember when he first proposed the building, he wanted to call it the Herb Brooks Miracle Center. Honestly, I thought that was a terrible name because I didn't know anything about Herb Brooks. But thanks to Dan Bostrom, I learned that, like a lot of people in this room, Herb Brooks was a scrappy East Sider. He loved hockey, and eventually he became the head coach of the U.S. Olympic team. Herb's team ended up winning the gold medal against Russia in 1980 at the height of the Cold War. No one thought he could do it. No one thought the team could do it. The game was so legendary it became known as the Miracle on Ice. People feel overwhelmed by the sheer scale of the environmental and economic challenges we face. We feel small and unable to make any kind of meaningful difference in the face of a global climate crisis. Dan Bostrom believed that miracles happen right here on the east side of St. Paul. Ward 6 has been left behind for too long. It's time for us to come together and lead the way.
So we are really happy to welcome you here tonight for our candidate forum. Have been working for the last couple months with Steve Sori, Danielle Swift, Terry Towns, Nelsie Yang, and Alexander Ford, all of whom have been in communication with us for quite some time. Danielle Swift had to cancel. She had a personal emergency, and she sends her regrets. We also have a person who says that they are running and that they have filed, and we are allowing him to sit at the table with the other candidates. However, he has not received the questions, and it will be kind of a moment-to-moment decision for us on how we will manage that. Because all of these candidates have had these questions and have put a lot of hard work into it. So thank you for your understanding about this as we sort of manage the evening. And it wouldn't be the east side, would it, if something unexpected didn't happen. So, as a forum, as this is a forum, these questions the candidates have previously received and will respond to now. This is not a debate. There will be no interruptions. There will be no back and forth to make counterpoints. The format will include 4 prepared questions read by Mike Karabayashi and myself. These questions will be limited to 2 minutes per candidate. There will be a timekeeper to cue you. Here's Jim. He will signal you when there is 1 minute left, and then again when there is 30 seconds. There will be a strict limit out of respect for everyone's time, and because we want to be able to include a couple of audience questions. Those will be 1 minute each, and there will be a closing statement at the end of 2 minutes each. Questions, many of you got, did you all see that there were question sheets as you came in? Please go ahead and copy that down. You can, anyone with an orange shirt can take that question from you, and we will kind of be compiling them and maybe merging some. We'll also be sending all the questions that you submit tonight to the candidates, and we will share them on the Facebook forum page that we have. So when your time is up, please pass the mic to the person beside you. Thank you all in advance for working with us.
Thank you. The first question is on environmental impact. Last week we saw more than 7 million students around the world lead a strike for climate justice. The climate crisis is global, but its effects are felt locally. What are some of the ways that change? I apologize. The first question is on environmental impacts. Last week we saw more than 7 million students around the world lead a strike for climate justice. The climate crisis is global, but its effects are felt locally. What are some of the ways changing climate is already affecting people in Ward 6, and how will you address them as a city council member? And to clarify, we'll be going across this way, with a different person starting in each question.
Hi everyone, my name is Nelsie. I'm so happy to be here today, and I just want to share that climate justice is something that impacts everything. It impacts our air quality. It impacts like whether or not families on the east side here are able to even make sure they have heating systems ready for the extreme cold, and so much more beyond that. And I wanted to just share that that's actually something that we've already been seeing. This past December, if you remember the extreme cold, 1,000 Edgerton high rise was actually a building in the Ward 6 here that had their heating system blown out. They called elected officials. They also called the public housing agency, and they were told, hey, you turn on your oven and you'll stay warm that way, which is totally unacceptable. They had my flyer and called me and said, Nelsie, can you do something for us to make sure we get our heating back up? And within 3 hours, we got it back up because I called elected officials and said, you cannot leave people stranded like this and like leave them behind. You need to do something right now. And so that's something I'm so proud of. I also want to name that for us to actually address this, I believe that our budget is actually a moral document of what our values are. And that means that we need to make sure that climate action is one of our top priorities in pairing that with housing, and also making sure that people are earning livable wages. These are all things that I'm deeply passionate about and championing. Like, I actually worked on the $15 minimum wage, and we got that passed in St. Paul. I'm excited about us enforcing that so that everyone can have access to affording their homes and so much more. And I just want to share that people who are marginalized cannot actually afford to opt out when it comes to wanting to have clean and renewable energy. They cannot afford it, and in the Ward 6 here, that impacts so many families. And so my question is like, who do we actually want to be building our community for? We need to build it for our communities that are most marginalized and lift everyone from the bottom up. Those are deep values that I have, and I'm going to be pushing to make sure that our public dollars are actually being invested in clean air, water, energy, and so much more.
I think we first need to acknowledge that here in Ward 6, we're especially going to be hard hit because we have a 40% poverty level in our neighborhoods. So that means people here already face a lack of access to transit. They're already facing pay more for their housing or else they can't find housing. And in addition to that, the housing they do find is pretty energy efficient, so they end up paying a lot of money on their utility bills. We also know worsening climate change will impact the physical health of our residents. We already have high rates of asthma, and the worsening air quality actually impacts a lot of cardiovascular or heart health. So as a city council member, I know there are some short-term things we can do to respond to climate change. We can open up recreation centers and those days where there's extreme cold and extreme heat so that our seniors and our youth can come to cool down and warm up. We also need better systems of communication. I'm actually going to borrow something as a St. Paul Public Schools parent that I think they do well, which is they actually call residents in the many different languages they speak. And I think we need to use a system like that to call residents in the cases of severe weather. We also need to return block captain programs to check in on our neighbors in the case electricity or phones or internet isn't working. And then of course I support the replanting of trees. I recently lost one, a beautiful tree in the front of my house a couple years ago, and we know they create greater shade and help cool down our streets. Trees are one of the best ways we can combat greenhouse gases. The impact of climate change has also taken a toll on our roads. We know what great system they are not in, and so we need to acknowledge that too. We also need to ensure, I will also continue to ensure that the St. Paul water utility maintains high standards for the water. We supply 400,000 people with the water in our region. In the long run, we need to make key investments in transit, as well as, which is where I've been sitting at, the Rush Line Advisory Committee. Bus rapid transit, we're gonna have 6 routes that are gonna come through Ward 6 that will connect us to St. John's Hospital and up to White Bear. In addition to that, I have advocated for greater bike paths.
My name is Kasim Basuri, and the impact that the pollution and the climate crisis is affecting Ward 6, there are many. The pollution in the air that we breathe that's affecting our children, elderly, and those with respiratory issues, and also the cost of living. So with climate change brings extreme weather that our sustainable foods are not being able to reproduce and not being able to get enough food to produce to sell, so the cost of food goes up. That affects the bottom line of every household. So what ways would I, as a council, as a city council member, do to make sure that we curb this issue? One of the projects that I approved early on that was on the works by my predecessor, Dan Bostrom, the 848 Payne Avenue, which would bring 99 units of homes on Payne Avenue, has a solar panel on the roof of the project itself. Stormwater management as well included in that. It has bike racks for 99 bikes, which would encourage people to use bicycles instead of cars. And other projects that we can tap into, since we do have the Hillcrest golf course that's going to be being developed, we can encourage that all new houses that are built there to be solar panel ready, and to make sure that those homes are sustainable homes that are affordable to those for our community to afford it and to buy it, and upgrading homes with renewable energy and making sure that houses can sustain the heat, and doing a program that would incentivize the
Greetings. My name is Alexander Bourne, candidate for St. Paul City Council, Ward 6, which covers much of East St. Paul. I'll just piggyback on a lot of the things that's already been said, many of which I already agree with. One thing that I would do differently if elected to the city council would actually be to advocate against the rush line. I think that's an opportunity to preserve our prized natural resources that in our green space that we already have here in the city of St. Paul, which has become very minimal, considering that nearly 40% of our land here in the city is non-taxable. Anyone that knows me knows that I'm a huge proponent of solar panel roadways. I know it's not foreseeable that we'll have those, but I think that that's a great opportunity for us to solve a lot of the environmental issues that we have, including budgetary issues. I will also advocate for more rooftop gardens, maximizing the capacity of our blighted properties. I think right now we have the opportunity, the city of St. Paul has just over 100 vacant lots that they already own. Okay, we can turn those blighted properties into opportunities for solar panels that will positively impact our environment. As you all know, we're in control of sewage and water, so making sure that we have clean water for our children and our elders to drink from. I think all of those things are huge. When it comes to alternative means of transportation, I personally would like that people will stay out of their cars as much as possible, off the buses as much as possible, until Met Council understands the importance of going 100% environmental friendly with respect to the services in which they offer before 2030. I don't believe that we have another 10 years to wait. These are issues that are pressing our community right now. Thank you.
My name's Greg Copeland.
So, excuse me, but it's 6:53 and it is sundown, so for those who need to step out to pray at this point, please do so. So the next question is about economic impacts.
Can I please respond to the time
No, you didn't communicate with us prior to this.
You know, I have my official affidavit from Ramsey County. I paid the same $250 that everybody else did here.
And you didn't work with us to set up the forum, I'm sorry.
You know, I responded to your invitation that I got by the flyer that's sitting right here.
You got an invitation to attend the forum with other people. Now, the second question.
I'm a candidate. Why would
And
you
you heard,
say that you're
excuse
having
me.
an energy democracy forum? Why are you having an energy democracy forum trying to exclude people who...
We aren't trying to exclude you. If you wanted to be here, you would have let us know. You would have responded. And you would have come more, you would have come at 6:30. Now, question number 2.
I have a response to
Do I
this
need-
question, ma'am.
Well, at the end, you can make a closing statement. So, question number 2, economic impacts. Economic impacts. In addition to the environmental damage we're already facing from fossil fuel emissions, we also face increasing economic risks. For example, the City of St. Paul's utility, XL, is currently planning to build at least one new natural gas plant that could keep St. Paul dependent on fossil fuels beyond 2050. How does investment in new fossil fuel infrastructure put Ward 6 Utilities customers at risk, and how will you respond to this as a city council member? So Terry, we will start with you this time.
Terry Howe. I think one of the biggest risks to utility customers is actually the reliance on one source of energy. I'd be really concerned about what will happen if the entire system goes down. How will hospitals operate, senior facilities, schools? I know this will have a tremendous impact on individual households. Just a few years ago, my block experienced a power outage for a whole weekend due to some severe thunderstorms. We had to buy flashlights, throw out food from our freezer, which was costly, and while it was summer, thankfully it wasn't too hot. We were also fortunate to have family nearby where we could stay at, but we know this is impossible for everyone. So we need to invest in alternative energy options, such as solar and wind, so that we cannot be entirely dependent on one source alone. As a city council member, I would support community solar gardens on government buildings and incentivize small to mid-sized buildings to use alternative forms of energy in their buildings. Furthermore, I would require that the jobs created by these industries pay a living wage and prioritize local residents in hiring and training. As a city council member, I would also support the resolution that MN350 has drafted that speaks to reducing St. Paul's reliance on fossil fuels. I also appreciate the ability that we will have in 2021 to renegotiate our contract with Excel so that we can ensure additional community benefits in the forms of local jobs or additional help with folks who are low income with a cold weather rule. Thank you.
I'm in a delicate situation. I was going to yield my time to Mr. Copeland out of fairness and transparency as well as inclusion, which lies deeply in my heart. Sadly, I was advised not to. That being said, the fact of the matter is we have the opportunity to take action, and we should, okay? If we continue to allow these big organizations and companies to dictate the quality of life here in our city, that is a problem, okay? If elected to the city council, I will always continue to work in the interest of our community, for the betterment of our community, with our community. Thank you.
I just want to share that I feel like one of the biggest consequences of this would be that, that's the reason why when you look at the Climate Action and Resilience Plan, it has a plan for us to reach carbon neutrality by 2050, which is actually not doable and doesn't work for families here at all. When we have a more progressive agenda, when we have more people who are bold in the city and making decisions for what the future of our city will look like, that's actually how we can make sure that we reach where we want to be and our goals on climate action. And doing this means, I care deeply about making sure we have a people-centered democracy. We actually need people in Ward 6 here to be decision makers and what the future of St. Paul looks like. I would really like to see a committee of people, especially people from organizations and district councils who are already doing the groundwork that care deeply about climate justice to come together, work together with council members, and really renegotiate contracts that are more bolder, and so that we can actually get to where we want to be. That's the first thing. And also the next thing would be, I talk a lot about our budget, but that's really because I feel like clean air, energy, and water is actually a public good. We do not need corporations coming in here into our city profiting off of basic needs that all of us should be able to have. That's actually one of the biggest values that is making people who are marginalized, people who live in poverty, that's what's keeping them behind. And so if we actually want to turn that around and make sure that we are centering people and making sure that we want all families to thrive, it means that we change our values and we make sure that we have people in office who know deeply about what's an unwavering value for them when they get to the negotiation table. And that's something that I'm deeply invested in. I'm very clear about where we need to be and why we need Eastsiders in Ward 6 here to be at the decision-making table, because we actually have in a community that's been marginalized for a very long time, and it's time to change that.
Thank you. The next question is on equity impacts. We know that vulnerable communities are hurt first and worst by effects of climate change. And St. Paul's Climate Action and Resilience Plan identifies unfortunately the mic is cutting in and out. The next question is on equity impacts. We know that vulnerable communities are hurt first and worst by the effects of climate change. And St. Paul's Climate Action and Resilience Plan identifies Ward 6 neighborhoods as some of the most at-risk in St. Paul. How can energy democracy help address these and other inequities in Ward 6 communities face, such as safe and affordable housing, living wage jobs, racial disparities, etc.? I may alter this real quick. Kasim, would you like to respond to the last question real quick? Would you like to repeat it? Yes. All right. In addition to the environmental damage we're already facing from fossil fuel emissions, we also face increasing economic risks. For example, the City of St. Paul's utility, XL Energy, is currently planning to build at least one new natural gas plant that could keep St. Paul dependent on fossil fuels beyond 2050. How does investment in new fossil fuel infrastructure put Ward 6 utility customers at risk, and what will we do about this as a council member?
As we said earlier, the pollution that is created by fossil fuel energy, it is hurting our community already. And what I would do is work with 350 Minnesota to come up with a way where at least most of our energy with Excel is coming from renewable sources. So whether it be solar panels, whether it be wind energy, that we use at least 75 or more of our energy coming from renewable energy. And enforcing that by having an ordinance within the city that we will not accept anything less or more, depending on what we come together at, is what I would do. Thank you.
Thank you. And actually, we'll be starting with you for the next one. I'll repeat. We know that vulnerable communities are hurt first and worst by the effects of climate change. And St. Paul's Climate Action and Resilience Plan identifies 4 to 6 neighborhoods as some of the most at risk in St. Paul. How can energy democracy help address these and other inequities 4 to 6 communities face, such as safe and affordable housing, living wage jobs, racial disparities, etc.?
There are many ways that democracy climate can help our community. One of the ways is by having municipal co-ops that is owned by the residents of that neighborhood, of that ward, that they get to control how much money that's spent into that energy, and they benefit from it, not Excel or a big company that takes away the benefits of the energy that's already free, like solar and wind. So making sure that the community has the power of it. Other ways we can do this is also by partnering with Excel in making sure that our homes are energy efficient. And how do we do that in Ward 6 when we have a high rate of poverty, and poverty is driving our community to not be able to afford the energy that they're using? So putting mandates of a program where the company, Excel Energy, actually invests into those homes by fixing up the different deficiencies in the home, and having the savings as being money going back towards whatever updates that were being made to that home. So in the long run, the home is saving $25, $30 a month, and that money is going back to Excel to make that fixing up that house to be more energy efficient, and giving some breaks to the homeowners and the renters as well.
So, one thing that we can do right now, which we've already started working on through a project that I founded since being on the campaign trail, and that's the Founding Neighbors Project. These are projects that are founded by neighbors. And so what we are already working on right now is to implement a program that allows us to have the city, state, and any other respected entity that may be willing to provide assistance to us, that would allow us to go into underprivileged neighborhoods like Ward 6, the only community that I grew up in, to provide free energy efficient light bulbs. It may not sound big, but you've heard some of the impact that energy efficient light bulbs can already have. That's something that we are literally already working on. Again, that is through the Founding Neighbors Project. You can go to my website, alexjborn.com, to get a little bit more information about it. Again, first stated, that $20, $30 that an individual may save on their light bill, for my family, that was 60 to 70 packs of noodles, okay? That was 15 to 20 days worth of food on our table. And that is the very same for many individuals that live to my left and live to my right, right here in the Ward 6 community and throughout the city of St. Paul.
I'd say the most exciting, two very exciting things about energy democracy is, one, it really transforms and like really reforms like what our entire government is all about. Meaning when it comes to climate action, meaning like we don't just talk about reducing carbon emission. We just don't talk about like doing that, but we actually talk about our values, which is every single person in our community deserves to have clean air, clean energy, clean water. That should be like what we work on, no exceptions. If we don't have people in city council who even have those values, then we start having people, we start having leadership where it's about, well, what do we have enough for? What can we actually afford, rather than prioritizing the things that deeply matter to people who live here. So that's the one thing that's really exciting. The second thing is that it also pushes our city council and our system as a whole to start paying attention to people who live in Ward 6, who have always not been getting our fair share, and who have always been left out of committees or the decision-making table. And like as a racial equity organizer, I care deeply about the East Side and Ward 6 especially getting its fair share, because if we actually got that from the very beginning, if we had a fighter, someone who knew deeply about what the community here needed and was willing to fight and make sure that we had that, we would actually be in a very different place right now. The East Side would we would have abundance. Our streets, we would have so many opportunities for families. Even I'm talking about more than just climate justice. And so those are things that are deeply important. And so building toward a people-centered democracy is something that we deeply need. And I just want to share as well that how the reason why people power is so important is because the corporations are actually not people. They come into our community profiting off of us. So we actually need to flip that around. And like one thing that I'm really excited to do and that I want to do with council members, especially Councilmember Jalali and Nelson, who are very clear about climate action, is denouncing the building more natural gas plants in other cities that actually impact us as well.
So energy democracy is first is really exciting because it says that we're going to hold those most vulnerable, right, at the core of this work. And I think that's really important. And my solution to a lot of this work is that we have to keep things local, right? First, we have to grow the local economy where we spend our money, jobs, and businesses stay in the community. I want to work on converting current businesses into worker cooperatives so that residents can become owners and earn living wages. The energy sector is one area where this growth. We know there's also a number of business owners who are retiring with very little plans for their future businesses. And imagine if we got them owned by a number of East Siders. When I served on the St. Paul Planning Commission, I chaired the committee that developed the 2040 Comprehensive Plan. So it's a plan that's thinking about the future for our city for the next 20 years, which also repeats the theme of keeping things local. In the plan, we said we supported having neighborhood nodes where people don't have to go any more than 3 to 6 blocks to get to what they need, because we know there are people who cannot afford and who cannot drive or afford a car, and it allows people to walk to these neighborhood nodes safely. And in addition to this, we need to develop small businesses at these nodes that will support the needs of residents. I've heard from folks, you guys want more coffee shops, co-working spaces, spaces for artists, and other goods and services. You know, part of me is I've actually done a lot of this work sitting on the board of ESNDC here, the East Side Neighborhood Development Company, and the Asian Economic Development Association. We also want more density with more housing, which is in the 2040 plan. So it has long-term impacts on student achievement and family stability when they have a house over their head. Lastly, I agree that the redevelopment of the Hillcrest Golf Course is a great opportunity to have housing, green space, and develop high-paying jobs, many of which are designated for local residents.
Okay, this question is about energy vision. I think we're already hearing a lot of vision, but this question goes about it pretty directly. The climate crisis is global, but the effects are felt locally, and the solutions can be too. Energy democracy means giving our communities the power to decide our energy future rather than staying dependent on the corporations and policies that created the current climate crisis. As a city council member, what is your vision for what energy democracy would look like in Ward 6?
I'll keep it short and sweet. If elected to the city council, one of my top priorities will be to implement an ordinance that does away with the use of plastic bags in retail stores citywide.
When it comes to me, it's like climate action to me is actually not an option. It cannot be an option for people, for cities to be able to opt out of this, for corporations to be opted out of this. Climate action actually needs to be a city mandate. That means that we require that in all future development, and even like right now, existing buildings, corporations, homes, that we make it a city budget to invest money and also like find money, state dollars, federal dollars to require building solar rooftops in future, and to invest in clean renewable energy. Like when I look at Brooklyn Park, they are leading in solar energy. Like actually St. Paul should be the city that's leading in this. Like we are one of the most diverse communities. We are a grand, prosperous city that has a budget of over $650 million. And if we actually allocate those dollars to where it matters most, we can really transform our city and make sure that we're investing in things that deeply matter to people who live here. And I just want to share that when it comes to energy democracy, or even just making sure that our city is on the path to becoming a clean renewable energy city that has clean air, clean water, everything. It really is something that takes all of us to be able to do. Like a council member, I want to name that a council member is actually not someone to be a savior, but there's someone who's here to actually open the doors for the things that people in the city, in the ward really care about. I know that neighbors here have cared about a lot of things. I go and door knock, I talk to people who are climate justice activists, who have never really felt like this place it felt like Ward 6 has been heard. But we need somebody in city council who will actually open these doors and also be a champion for it as well. And that's something that I'm really, really looking forward to being able to do with you.
So, I agree. The key thing about energy democracy is the democracy part. So it's only citizens who participates in it. And so I'm super excited that we have a packed room tonight with people who came out to hear about this issue, to come out and hear about the local elections. Thank you. For local elections, because that matters, right? And for 15 years, I've spent my time engaging with communities. There used to be something called the Prosperity Campaign, where I worked with community members and